and then it's preparing to live stream this webinar. Okay. And I'm going to walk you through how to actually do a webinar right now, like how to schedule it. So as you can see, it's loading. Okay. Yeah. And then it's preparing to live stream this webinar. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing. So it's recording. Okay. All of this is being recorded right now. So let's
a little in the left-hand corner, it says live on YouTube.
Yes, and we can always stop. Okay, we can always stop it. I have that option where it says stop live stream. And Andrea, I'm going to go ahead and make you a host, a co-host. That's another feature that as a panelist, you can always upgrade any of your attendees. If you see that one of your attendees can really help out as a panelist, then you can always select and say more by clicking participants, click more, and it gives you there, make a panelist or make a host. As a host, I can do a co-host and panelist, but as a panelist, you could give attendees the access to doing a panelist as well.
Jennifer,
so let's go. Yes.
Can I ask you a quick question? So in order for us to be a host, is it just when we create the webinar, it's just we just automatically become the host?
That's
okay.
That's right. So you would be the one to log into when you go into the Zoom account. You want to start it off from the Zoom account. You don't want to.
Okay.
So there's, yes, you're right. Whoever creates it, it's a host. So there's 3 different links to being able to access a webinar. Number 1, as a host, you log into the account and you click on join now, and boom, you start it. And you can join as a panelist, which is a different invitation. And then there's, for the attendees, a different invitation. And I'm going to show you guys right now how that works. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen on how I'm going to walk you through if you want to schedule a webinar. So basically, when you log into the account, which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this, you're going to click, instead of meetings, you're going to click on webinars. Okay. And if you guys ever have a question, you go ahead and just ask me. As a panelist, you could, that's another thing. As panelist, you can stop your video, you can unmute yourself, but attendees do not have that access. They're muted and their videos are off unless we want them to have their videos on. Okay, so here we go. Let's start a webinar. We're going to create one very similar to Zoom meeting. So we're going to do OSAP day number 1. We're going to put here webinar testing. Okay. This description is what people are going to read when they receive the invitation. So we could put this webinar is a test run for the OSAP meeting. Okay, we select the day, the time. Let's just do Wednesday. This is, again, just an example. You choose how long you want the meeting to go. This part right here, you can go longer. For example, if we put 2 hours, we can go longer than 2 hours. This is mostly for the attendees and the panelists to know how long to expect this meeting to last. Okay, if we go a little over those 2 hours, say 3 hours, it will not kick us out. As long as we're all logged in, we're good. It's just kind of giving everybody that is attending the webinar, letting them know, hey, prepare for this meeting, it's going to last about 2 hours. Okay, we can do this reoccurring. I'm sorry.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we now have webinar capabilities on both accounts or just the Coop Consulting account for now? If my memory serves me, it's just the Coop Consulting account for now, right?
Yes, the Coop Consulting account.
Okay.
Yes.
So as
Micro account, I don't have access to.
Okay, so just to put a bug in everybody's ear, as we're coordinating the speakers for the not only, so day one, I think we've pretty much made the decision we're going to go webinar mode. We need to pitch that and explain in for OSAP. But day two, we have some flexibility. There'll most likely be meetings, but if you see some need for a webinar in some of your breakouts, we can update that second Coop Consulting Zoom account to have the webinar function. We just need to know if your speakers or your presenters are leaning that way for day two. So just be thinking about that. My feeling is there'll probably be meetings, but we do have the option, depending upon the goals of the breakouts. For the SINAR training, I think it might be webinar, but anyway. So if we need webinar on the second account for any reason, let Jennifer or I know and we can set that up.
Definitely. So the time zone, basically the time zone that the meeting's going to be held. Registration, this is if we want to require registration. I selected for this webinar walkthrough, I did request registration, which all of you did. And this is for everyone. And this is really going to help whoever's taking attendance, because that way they don't log in by just saying, oh, it's Jen Ruiz, without actually knowing their name. So when it's registration, you're actually force them to write their whole first and last name and any other or any other questions that we want to require. Later on, we're going to see some of those options. Okay. If we want to require a webinar password, we could do that. We can also change it to testing. That way they have that. Video, I selected for this walkthrough, I selected that both the host and the panelists have their videos on. I can choose, we can choose, you could choose to have the panelist videos off. That is optional, okay? The audio, I think it should be both the telephone and also computer audio. And I think that's already pre-selected. And then you want to have, and then you have the webinar options. Q&A is if anybody in the attendees wants to ask a question, they can go ahead. And as a panelist, you can answer it. Panelists, who are panelists is your speakers, anybody that's going to be like a tech support, anyone that's going to share their screen, those are your panelists. Attendees are those that you want to invite to attend the meeting, okay? Enable practice session. I think everyone should check this off, because as a host, you want to log in about 15 minutes, 10 minutes before the actual meeting starts. You want to test out, is your audio working? Is your video working? With your panelists, you want to check, can I hear everybody? Is everyone good? This practice section gives you basically a test run through everything before you go live, okay? I suggest everyone selects it if you're gonna do a webinar, and have your speakers also join in 10 minutes before the actual meeting, just to do like a quick test run, okay?
Jennifer, would we need to schedule the webinar for 10 minutes before? So for example, this session, we started at 9 o'clock, but if we wanted to do a test, we wouldn't be able to log in at like 8:50 unless we scheduled this meeting for that time, right?
You actually can't. So I logged in at 8:45 before everyone did, and just went through the whole thing.
So as long as the host is present, it's fine.
As long as the host starts it, then we're good. Yes. Only authenticated users can join. What does that mean? That means is that you require for those to join in to actually have a Zoom account. Why is that? Is because if anybody just wants to randomly log or join this webinar, they could just make up an email and I'll let them in. But if you select this, it will not let them in unless they have or they log or they sign into a Zoom account. So if you ever want to follow up with all your attendees, then I suggest you click this because it will give you real emails. It won't give you somebody making up an email, okay?
The only thing, so oh God, I feel like I'm like negative Nelly during this webinar. For the OSAP recipients, I don't know. I think I feel pretty confident with requiring a password that security piece, like I feel good about that.
I agree with you.
I like the idea of having authenticated users, but I don't know if everyone in the prevention system has a Zoom account. And you know, when you first create, I mean, we'll have to give them information on, oh gosh, on how to like download the platform if they don't already have it, like before the meeting. Do you think we should ask them to create a free account also?
So I thought about it, and for the OSAP, I'm suggest that we don't require this and we don't check it out just because if somebody, for example, is having problems with their computer for A or B reason and need to sign up into either phone or somebody else that does not have it, but they have the link, go ahead and join in because we are very selective in who we're going to send the invitation out to.
Okay.
I think this is more when you invite the public, the public, and you want to be able to follow up with them. I think it's good to make sure that it's real people logging in. I don't think for the OSAP meeting that's necessary. I agree with you.
And then the other thing we'll need to remember is the password should be numerical. We had a meeting with an EMT.
And yeah.
Oh my gosh, was having like audio difficulties and couldn't put the password into his phone. I would have never thought of that.
I didn't either, but I then researched it and what we had said was correct.
Or I wonder if he just didn't try it. Like he was like, ooh.
Yes. So ABC is one, but we could definitely do numbers and leave it just like they have it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
We could also create the password, and then when we send the notifications out to people, let them know if they're joining by phone, these are the numbers that they're going to type in for the password.
If we decide, yes, to do something, a word, for example. But I suggest definitely keep it simple, less complicated, better. So definitely a number that they generate. The other webinar option is make the webinar on demand. So this is basically recording the webinar, okay, whether it be your local computer or on the cloud. Or you also have this option of recording it. These two options right here, make webinar on demand or record the webinar automatically, are features that you can decide later on if you want to do it once you start the webinar, like I did. I did not select those, but once we started this webinar, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go live YouTube. And so I select live, okay? And then here you could assign an alternative host. We could put Andrea, for example, or myself, or well, I'm the host, so it would be somebody else, okay? And then we can schedule it.
For all the breakouts, I think we'll have 2 hosts so that everyone has a support person and whoever's leading the breakout can also jump in if they need to. I think it will be wise to have 2 of us. And then on the day of the big meeting, the day 1, we'll also have a host and a co-host. I don't know. I think it will be internal. I don't think that we'll need someone from OSAP to host the platform. We're just calling them the host, as in like the face of OSAP who's helping move the meeting forward along with the facilitator.
Yes. Okay, so thank you so much, Andrea, for that. Once we establish a webinar, it basically gives us this confirmation. And this is very important. This part right here in the Zoom meeting, this is where we would get the invite. This is only for the host. This is for you to add into your computer. Do not share this link with them, okay? This is just for your personal use. So you could then add it to your Outlook or Google Calendar, and it would be your link, whether you want to go that route or log into the account and start by selecting join this webinar, okay? Or start this webinar, sorry. Your password, This is now the good part. This second part of establishing a webinar, okay? So that we did the very basic, and now that we've done the basic, now here is the most important part of it, the invitations. Who do you want to invite? Who do you want to assign as a panelist? Panelists should be all your speakers. It should, bless you, it should be your speakers. It should be the COOP staff. And all you would do is select edit, and then you could go ahead and say, okay, I want to put Jennifer as a panelist, one of the panelists, and boo, 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 boo. And then you could just add. We can add up to 100 panelists, okay, which is nice. Then it gives you, send the invitation, those that you, for example, you can always add someone into this. For example, say you're like, okay, I included everyone. And then say 2 weeks pass by and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to add so-and-so into this panel. You can always go back and change the settings to webinar. The only thing is, once you actually start the webinar, you can no longer make changes. So it's before you start the webinar that you can make all the changes you need. But once you start it, you can't go back and say, ooh, I want to add so-and-so. Ooh, I want to do this. No, you have to do it before, okay? So once you've added all your panelists, you then have here where it says invite your attendees. We can invite up to 500 attendees. This is the link that you send to them. Yes.
Okay, and when you invite the panelists, does the oh, Jesse can chat. Oh gosh, I was trying to ask a question and realized I couldn't because I'm a panelist, but this chat still works. Will the chat only work for panelists?
Everyone. The only thing that you have as a panelist is that you can respond to it. You can respond to it, you can manage it.
Okay.
So basically you are somewhat in control of the meeting per se.
Do the attendees can chat, but they can also ask questions?
Yes, but they will all be muted. That we can select whether we want them all to be muted. And we can also select whether we want their videos to be closed.
Okay, but they'll be able to chat or ask questions. So they might be, depending on their level of comfort with Zoom, they might be asking questions in chat and the question piece.
Yes. So let me check here. If I'm not mistaken, I think the chat, if I'm not mistaken, I can verify that, is only panelists can chat. It's the attendees that can only do the Q&A.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes. Unless, of course, we want to, as a panelist, you'll click on chat and you'll be able to see whether you want all panelists or attendees. Okay. You see right there, it says yes, yes. So I believe that it's only the panelists that can send out a message through chat. For example, we could say something along those lines of, everyone, we're gonna be taking a 5-minute break. So all the attendees will get the message, but I could definitely check that for you. the chat in regards to panelists and attendees? That's a good question. I'm assuming that would just be the panelists.
I would think so. And then when you invite panelists, do they automatically receive an email through Zoom that asks them to register? Like, is this invite attendees, the copy invitation? That's only for attendees, not panelists, right?
Okay, yes. So when you select registration, both the panelists and the attendees have to register. Okay. What's the difference? The difference is that when you invite the panelists, it's basically you select their full name and their email. The link for the panelist is sent directly to their email, meaning
it.
I can't copy paste it and send it out to the panelists. No, like I have to assign it in this section right here where it says panelists.
Okay.
And yes, and you can always remove someone if you need, be like, oh no, I made a mistake. I assigned the wrong panelist to this meeting. You can always go back here and put delete.
Okay. So I just want to point out for everybody, that's going to be really key when you're talking to your speakers that you're working with or wrangling, that they have to register in order to receive directly through Zoom the Zoom link. And that's different than I originally thought. In the regular Zoom meetings, we're able to copy the invitation and send the link to our speakers directly. That'll be a change. So they'll need to be on the lookout, and they'll need to be sure to register. So we should point that out when we speak to them.
Definitely. And this is something that we could say an invitation to the meeting as a panelist has been sent to your email. And we just have to make sure that we send it to the email that they're expecting or the email they want to receive it. And you can always resend. There's this option that says resend because for example, for this invitation, I sent it twice in your emails. The first time, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to resend it again now that it's closer to the date. You guys can do the same. But that's a manual thing. It doesn't do it automatically for the panelists. You have to go in and do it yourself. But for the attendees, you can set it up that way. So here, right here, now that we've done the panelists, now this is the invite for the attendees. Now, since we have selected registration link, this is what they're going to get first. So we're going to copy the link and let's just paste it here. And this is basically what they're going to get, what the attendees are going to receive. We're going to wait just a little longer. Okay. While that's being loaded, there's more options to this. You can also send invitation to me, which I'm the one who has that email linked. Okay, so here you go. Here's the webinar registration, and we all got this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's exactly the same thing that the attendees will receive. Once they select register, then they will get the link, okay? That's if we select this option right here, approval option. So this is very important. Basically, we're going to do edit and registration. We selected registration is required. Approval. I selected for this meeting automatic approval. What does that mean? That means once they register and submit it, Zoom automatically sends them the link. But if we're like, no, send out the meeting, but I want to be the one to receive it. And if I feel like they're missing, they didn't put enough information, then I can manually approve them or deny it. If we deny it, basically they cannot log in. They cannot join the webinar.
Jennifer, do you receive notification either way? Like when I registered, were you able to see the list of all of us who registered as we registered before
right here
this meeting? Okay.
So right here, do you see my email?
Yeah.
So right here, it just says HiveCo Consulting, Andrea has registered for
okay.
it.
this might be a really great way. So as you know, we don't have a current list of everyone who receives monies from OSAP. We know the communities, but due to turnover, we don't always know who the community coordinator or contact is. So we'll be sending announcements to email, but we might get some people registered who aren't on that list. So I think this will be a really great way to crosswalk our master list where we're keeping that list of attendees who we're communicating with. We can crosswalk it with these registrations to make sure we have an up-to-date list.
Definitely, I think so. And the reason why I like automatic approval is because if you do not manually approve someone and that email gets lost in the mass of everything, they will not be able to join the webinar at all. And it's one less step that we have to do. Zoom automatically just sends them the link to join in once they have registered. But we put the criteria as to what we want them to fill out.
Oh, great.
So send, and in here again, notification. Send an email to the host when someone registers. That's something that I also selected. That's why I got the email. More options. We can close registration after the event date. Could select yes. Restrict the number of people that we want them to registers. I would suggest not to put a limit on it. Allow attendees to join from multiple devices. I think we should select that just because if their computer's not working and they need to quickly get another computer, they can do that.
I agree. And I also think close registration after event date, we should keep it open because we will have people freaking out the day of being like, I don't know how to register, or I don't know how to join, or I don't know how to whatever. And so they might, register and join the day of. Who knows?
Who knows? Exactly. So I definitely think automatic approval is good, and also just selecting those options. Now, here comes question. Automatically, you guys got first name, last name, email. But that's a given. But if we want more, this comes to Andrea cross checking with the master list. We can go ahead and select organization, job title, because some of these we don't know. We have their names, we just don't know their job title. It could change. So we could then start putting different things. Where are they located? Their phone number, their address. This is basically more features that we can add up. So the registration is going to have much more questions instead of just the first name, last name. Okay. And then if we want to have some custom questions, we can. Okay. We could do multiple choice short answer. It could be what's your favorite color? Random things like that. Okay. And that way, not only are they going to get all of these questions, but they're also going to get the custom questions, and then we're going to save all. Okay. That's for registration. What else? Okay, here is where you select copy invitation. This is the one that you're going to copy and paste and send it out to your attendees. Okay.
Only attendees, not panelists.
Only attendees, exactly. Panelists get their own special link. Host gets their own special link, and attendees get their own special link. So it's 3 different links that we do not want to get confused. Okay, so we've done the approval. Now let's go to email settings. The most important out of all these are your invitations, email setting, branding, and polls if we want to ask any questions during the webinar. So email. Right here you can see, and this is important, guys, because if you guys go and set up a webinar, all of it is going to be sent to planning.prevention@gmail.com.
Shoot.
No, we can change it. Not
Okay.
So So I went ahead for this particular webinar, I put my email in. And I'm gonna do the same thing for OSAP meeting. I'm gonna be the one to receive all of the emails. This is gonna tell me who registered already, who hasn't registered basically already, and any questions that anybody has will go to me, okay? Or in this case, whoever is hosting the webinar, okay? Invitation email to the panelists. You can select edit if we want to go ahead. In the other one, we've already listed who. This just basically says send invitation email to the panelist again. Do confirmation email when somebody has registered. You can send yourself a preview of it, okay? Just say, send me a preview email. It's going to be sent to the email mentioned.
Oh, cool. So it does give a confirmation.
It does. Okay.
I actually think that because we're doing this in Zoom, that we should not, usually we send a registration through SurveyMonkey because we need counts for number of hotel rooms that we need in the room block, and also for the number of meals that we're going to serve, like throughout the conference, number of seats, etc. I don't actually think we need a SurveyMonkey registration if we're having people register through Zoom. So just figuring out how to communicate the difference, because the main difference I can think of is that in SurveyMonkey, we capture registration for day one and then also for all of the different breakouts. The breakout piece registration is going to get messy. So I'll have to think about that a little bit more, and I'm really open to suggestions and conversation on this. But I always think that for the breakouts, it's really helpful for the person who's running the breakout to know how many people to anticipate and who those people are. So if we're going to do a meeting style breakout through Zoom, we might still want to do a SurveyMonkey and have people register for all of the things that they're going to be attending, and then add the Zoom registration for day one in the SurveyMonkey registration. We'll have to think about how to make it the least complicated version possible, but I like this registration. We get way more information here.
And we can customize it, really.
Yeah, so I feel like it's it almost might be better to do it just through one platform. The tricky part is that day two. So we'll have to think about that.
Okay. So confirmation email, once they registered, we can customize it. We can change anything. Put the subject line as confirmation to the OSAP day one. And then we could put in the body, say, thank you for registering. Hi, thank you for registering. We look forward to seeing you there. You can customize all of this, okay? And this is the link that they're gonna get. They're gonna get the phone number, how to log in, their link. They can then add it to their calendar if they want to. I know we have fans that love the calendar invites. Yeah. So then you save those settings and it will have that automatically once they finished registering. The most important thing is sending out the link to registration. Once we send the link to registration, Zoom takes care of the rest. They take care of sending me a confirmation that somebody registered. It sends them the link to the meeting. And then we have here the option of reminder emails to both the panelists and attendees. I would suggest that we check this off. It could be an hour before the webinar, it could be a day before, and it could be a week before. And again, we can customize the subject as to what we want it to say. That way, anybody that has already registered gets those reminders saying, hey, remember 1 hour before the webinar starts, or 1 day before the webinar starts, and so forth, okay?
Jennifer, I'm sorry to ask this again. I know you already answered it, but you can, in the webinar mode, you can allow all your attendees to be unmuted. Is that's correct?
That is correct. The ones that have more flexibility are your panelists, because they're going to be your presenters. And the attendees, which I would like if maybe later on someone could just log out of panelist mode and log in as an attendee. They can then be able to view what everybody else is going to view, which I did that in another computer. I went ahead and logged in as an attendee. So there's very, very few things that you see. You see the most important things. You see the polling, the question and answers, but you don't have that option of sharing your screen. You don't have that option of others. I mean, you see very limited things, but you get to see the panelists, you get to see what's happening, the shared screen. If you want to say something, there is a little hand that says raise your hand. And that's how we'll know. As a host and a panelist, you'll see a blinking that says somebody has a question, somebody raised their hand. And then one of the panelists can answer and say, oh, I'm sorry, Amy, for example, raised her hand. Amy, could you write down on the Q&A, what is your question? Or we can unmute that person. As a panelist, you have that option, you have that power, and as a host, we as well. Okay.
So the more I'm learning about it, the more I'm thinking maybe we just set up webinar for all of the related meetings and do the registration this way, and just set up on the back end what's going to most suit us for in the meeting. Jess had a good question about a Zoom-based event page with various meetings to register for. That might be something we need to think about.
Definitely. I honestly, this webinar is life-changing. It really is. It's like, I'm like, whoa, there's just so much things that you could do it's really nice. It has nice features. Instead of, for example, having me to send out 3 different reminders, we could just set up for Zoom to do it
automatically. Yeah.
So they basically, a reminder email would be like a week before. We customize it, just saying, hey, this is a reminder, this is the link. We can even add more to it. The only thing about that is the agenda. You can't attach the agenda, or you can't attach presentations, but at least they'll get the reminder. You also, not only do you have that, but you also have a follow-up email. If you want to email everybody, you can select that. And for those that don't attend, you can also send a follow-up email on that. So then comes branding. I think branding is pretty cool too, because you can customize it. You can put in your invitation, you can go ahead and you could put a picture on there. You can, whatever you want, just it says OSAP meeting, and then we could put another logo, whoever on it. You can change it. And then we can add up to 3 speakers, their information. You can upload their picture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you can put, Jennifer's going to be one of the presenters. I don't know. And then OSAP. And then we can write a little bit about me. Jennifer is blah, 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 blah. We could save it. And then this way, your attendees will be able to view this in the link. Once they get the link to registration to log in, they'll be able to see the top speakers of this webinar. You can only do 3, okay? So they'll see that as well. You could select a theme. You could do survey afterwards.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of cool features that you could do. The poll, here's where you ask questions. So for this webinar, I'll just show you really quickly how that looks. Q&A, answers and questions, you can set it up before the event starts with some of these questions that you probably already know, or we could do it while we are live, okay? And then you have the live streaming, which is YouTube and whatnot. So let's see if I can now go, and I don't know if you could see my screen as to what options I have. but basically let's do the polling. So I went ahead and I already I don't want to say pre-recorded, but pre-entered some of these questions. So I'm going to launch it. So all of you guys should see it on your screen. Is that correct? So you guys can vote.
I don't think we can vote because we're panelists.
Mm.
Let's log out. Let's leave Jennifer and let's log out and log in as attendees.
Yes, let's do that. So you're not seeing it. That's so weird.
I see it, but I can't answer it.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I'm
I
gonna
suggest
leave.
you guys, okay, so I'm gonna send you guys right now the link on how to log in as an attendee.
Okay.
Okay. You guys should have gotten it, but I'll share it. Let's see here.
I don't know that I,
Hi.
hey, I don't know that I got the link for the attendee that you just sent.
It's okay. I just emailed it.
Okay, okay.
So just
There. Thank you.
I think it's gonna ask you to register again. That's okay.
All right.
Mhm.
All right.
Hi.
Hey.
So you registered as an attendee? No, as a panelist still.
All right. I'm gonna try this again.
Huh. That's so funny. You know what? I can I can change you guys to attendee. So Andrea, your video is closed because you're an attendee, but I'm going to give you access to talk, and it says allowed to talk.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to also, you guys didn't have to log in back in. I just saw a feature where I could just change your roles as attendee. So Kirsten, I'm going to do the same
Okay.
to you. And actually, you're a co-host.
I think it's because I'm signed into consulting.
Okay, that's okay. I removed you from it, and I'm going to make you.
Ooh, so they do have, so I do have chat and questions.
Okay, good, good.
And I can't change my view. I can only see who's talking.
Yeah, you can only see me, but your video is automatically closed and you're automatically muted. I just gave you access to it. So do me since you logged into the account, Kirsten, I can't assign you into either panelist or attendees. Can you just log into your account and then I'll go ahead and just move you into attendees. I'm sorry.
So should I just go to zoom.com? Is that what I should do?
Just click on the link that you clicked on to join this instead of logging into Coop. Just go into the email. Yeah.
I think you'll have to log out of the Coop account first, Kirsten.
So do I go to so is that how I log out?
Zoom.us, and then in the top left right-hand corner, you'll see the icon for the Zoom for Coop Consulting.
Okay.
You'll have to sign out. or it'll say my account and you'll have to sign out from there. And
Got
then
it.
to join, you just go to the link.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically from the host's perspective, I see Jess, but Jess's video is automatically closed and it gives me here allow to talk. So Jess, I just clicked you so that you can talk as well. So now you have both the option of muting yourself or continuing talking, and then raise your hand. I want to see if that feature works as well. For example, if you guys are both muted and you have a question, which that's most likely going to be the case, see if you guys have that option of raising your hands. Yeah, there you go. Jess raised her hands.
So Jennifer, I actually went in and logged out, but it's still showing me as logged in as Coop Consulting, and it doesn't look like I have the option to raise my hand here.
Oh, no, you're still logged as Coop. So basically just select end meeting. And when you log in not as Coop, but as your personal.
Let me see if that worked, because I did log out, but let me give it a try.
Okay. Okay. So Jess, your hand's up and it shows here from my end. And Andrea as well. Good.
You're meeting with Kirsten today
So we moved it. We moved it to Friday afternoon.
Okay. Could
Yeah.
I ask you a big favor and help her create a free account that shows up as Kirsten Munt
You got it.
with her Coop Consulting photo,
You got it.
and then show her how to go in between both accounts.
Okay.
And then Jess, I can't see you because I'm an attendee. This is hilarious.
Yeah, you guys can't send it because you guys can't see each other because you're
so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's what makes it a world of a difference. Yep, Kristen, you're still a co-host. Okay, let me send.
I had this problem before. It's like I will log out of Coop, and
Yeah.
then it's just like it just won't log me out. It's really weird. I've had this problem before, so I don't really know why it's doing that.
Oh,
The Switch account that I think you need to access, not just log out. You have to switch.
I have to switch because I don't have a personal account.
You should be able to log in through your Google, through some.
yeah, your
You don't even need to have an account in order to be able to join the meeting.
so
I'm a
so
little
I
confused.
sent you a link
Yeah, I clicked that.
and you clicked on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out, you would have to actually log in. What's happening is you're logging out, but you're still logged into Coop.
But I'll just tell you what I did. I went to Zoom. I logged out of Coop, fully logged out. I got myself out of everything, and then pressed the link that you sent me. But then
Okay,
it just
so
it
the
doesn't
app.
automatically.
So in your computer, you have the app, right? The one that says Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, you have to log out of that.
Log out of the.
Yes, I think what's happening is you're still logged there through Coop. So when you log out and then go to that app and put there log out, and it's going to have you sign in.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, so that's what yes, that's where I am now. So just put in maybe my Coop.
Yeah, so you're going to have to close this webinar. You're going to have to get out and then sign out of the app, sign out, and it's going to ask you for your name, and then go back in and click that link, and it'll automatically send you to where we're at now.
Okay, let me. Okay. Ta-da. Okay.
See if that works. Okay, so for those attendees, I'm going to go ahead and do the polls and see if you guys see that. And you guys can then work on it, that, and see what you guys can share what you see.
So I answered one question and it went away.
That's interesting. Okay. So Jess asked if we could do the poll questions like in real time. Okay, let me relaunch. Oh, you know what? Now that I selected, it says there's an option that says allow panelists to vote as well. Okay, so attendees, you are now viewing the question, correct?
Yes.
And you guys can now vote, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so then when you guys have all voted, I will put their end poll and I'm going to share the results with you guys. Attendees are now viewing the poll results.
I love this. I love all of these features. Jennifer, you are amazing. Thank you for walking us through all these cool functions.
Not a problem. So Jess, to answer your question, for example, if I want to go ahead, I'm going to stop sharing the poll. If I want to go ahead and add, for example, more questions, which I'm about to right now, I'm going to select on edit. But then it brings me back to, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see here, for example. Okay, yay, Kristen. Okay, it worked. Good. Okay, so I'm going to, since you're still a panelist, I'm going to change your role to attendee. Okay. So now you are video is closed. Okay. And now I'm going to give you access to talk. Okay. But you can mute it if you want. So, so I went ahead and edit polls and it brings me back here. Okay. To the original one. From here, I could go ahead and add a question. So I'm going to ask, you guys see the behind the scenes. I don't know.
Does it have to be like it can't be an open text box question? We
can, I'm going to do, for example, I didn't do multiple choice. I'm just going to ask a question. I'm going to save it. Oh, well, actually, you know what? It's asking me to, it's asking me, I just want, oh, well, because it's a poll, maybe that's why it's asking me for red, blue, I don't know. I think it's single choice. That's a good question. As you can see here, I have to select one of the answers. So they have to choose one or the other.
So I wonder if single choice means they can only choose one answer and multiple choice means
they have to choose one. So we're going to choose multiple choice and see what happens. So for example, let's just say a presenter's going and they're talking and all of a sudden you come up with a question that you want to ask everyone. So you quickly go there and let me see if it's now popping up here. It is. And here we go. Is everyone getting it?
Yeah.
So basically as a host, I could do that behind the scenes. So Jess, yes, you can go ahead and do this while the webinar is live.
Can you create the polls, like multiple polls in advance and choose which one to share at which time?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host now that you've seen what the attendees is. Now I want you to, I'm going to promote you to panelist. And now that everybody voted, so Andrea, now you are a panelist. You can also vote, which I think you already did, but you can also you know, okay. So then we're going to end it and then we can basically share the results with everybody. Okay.
So I think this would be another really great thing to let our speakers know about this function and see if there's, or if they want to create a poll that they want us to display during their presentation or their talk.
That's right. And so this is something that we can pre-select, and I want you to, Andrea, go into the poll and you'll select up there. It says poll number 1 questions. Click on the little arrow that goes down and you'll see there it says questions 1, number 2. That's how I labeled it. But then we could say something like PIRE questions, OSAP questions, COOP
Yeah,
questions.
we could label it. We could change the label. That's great. Then we can change according to like presentation title or whatever and label it 1, 2. People want to do more than one. I think PIRE could really get into this feature. I could see them with the New Mexico Community Survey results being something that they would be interested in doing. And I think Jess is the person who's going to be working with PIRE on that. And so Jess, that might be a really good feature to present to PIRE as an option.
So Jess here has a question. She raised her hand.
Yeah.
And as a co-host, you could then give them access to it says talking permitted. So you could talk, Jess, if you want.
Oh, well, I think that I raised my hand for an earlier question.
Oh, that's definitely something as a host and panel we have to be on top of, because if we get so into the presentation, they're going the way, I mean, the hand could be going up and we have to be conscious of like, okay, you know, and we can also ask them to use the chat or questions and answers as the feature, you know. And Andrew, you asked the question back, do attendees only see the people talking? And now that you went to attendees, is that the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So,
going to be the only thing in the OSAP meeting. I don't think OSAP's going to like that. I think they're going to want to have everybody, you know, they're used to like the SEOW and the way that we've been doing it, where it's like a friendly, like everybody can see everybody. It's really participatory. I don't know if we can set that up in the settings on the back end, or if we're just going to have to live with it.
no, we can actually do that. We can actually make them, I have the option to mute all the participants upon arriving. We can allow participants to unmute themselves. This is for panelists though.
But can attendees?
But now attendees, I'm going to go into attendees and see.
Can we change their view so that attendees can see each other?
So I'm going to go to attendees and I'm going to put, see, for example, Jess, the only options that I have is promote you to a panelist, rename you, remove you, chat, and allow and give her access to talk. That is the only thing she has. So video wise, no, we can't see. Panelists are the ones that we can see more. Let's do live, say. Oh, that's good. So Andrea, in the questions, you can answer it. You would like to answer this question live. We can answer the question live. Answered and dismissed. We can basically let everyone know when a question has been answered or not. I think this is what makes it webinar mode, is where the attendees have very limited access to a lot of things. That's I think one of the differences between meetings and webinar. Webinars, it's more letting them listen. And I think it's the great feature when someone's presenting. We want to hear them out. We don't want to hear the background noise. I don't have to worry about muting or unmuting. It's more of them just kind of hearing the whole presentation. And if they want to say something, they'll have to use the features, either chat or question and answer.
So Kirsten has her hand raised.
That's right, she does.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, because I know I'm responsible for two folks, Paula and the PSF 15s. So I would imagine that doing a webinar mode for the PSF 15s would be great, because we can just have them just basically, I'm just going to ask them to put it all into a pre-recorded video version. And Jennifer, I'll work with you to find like the best version that will work. So we'll just play one after the other. So that's what I'm thinking for the PSF 15s, but
Well, I want to stop you right there for a clarification for a second. So are you talking about day 1 or day 2?
day 1 for the provider highlights.
So for day 1, the entire meeting will be webinar style. There won't be a choice.
Got it. Okay, so there's really nothing for me to do except like wrangle their presentations.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's
and let them know that we're walking through this format so that we can kind of help support the presenters understand the difference what between webinar mode and meeting mode.
okay,
And then the choice is on day 2 with the PFS 15 breakout. My feeling is you're going to want a meeting, but the webinar is also available. But
yeah,
like
right there, yeah.
yeah, I think you're right on like day 1. I think it's going to be a lot easier on everyone. There'll be some inconveniences, but I really think webinar is the way to go for day 1 because we have so many speakers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that Paula and the PFS 15s on day 1, everybody's going to be webinar. Oops, she disappeared. Oh no, there she is.
So I promoted them to panelists now that we could see them and we could talk, but now you guys have a feel of what attendees see basically.
And Kirsten, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make that clarification, but you were saying something about videos for the PFS 15 on day 1?
Yeah, I think I'm just what I'm trying to do as I'm listening to all of this is try to figure out what my job is to do. So I'm just feeling like, okay, so at this point I'm not inviting people. So it's just like I'm just understanding what webinar mode is. Yeah, and then so with Paula, I'm just wrangling her presentation. I'm not creating a webinar or anything. Okay, got it. I just needed to know that because I was like, how deeply do I need to understand this? Okay.
Well, but I would say that pretty deeply because we'll be using this feature moving forward. And also we need to be able to answer the questions of speakers to let them know what is possible. So they can do polls, for example, but they need to know that their presentation is not going to be like if they have questions that they want to put out to the audience, we should probably do that in the like Q&A box or through a poll. They're not going to be able to have an open dialogue with people that they're, so we're walking through all these features, to help them understand like kind of the meeting structure and what the limitations will be.
Got it. Okay.
Basically with webinar mode is the attendees are not as engaged. It's not like a meeting going back and forth. It's more like them sitting in and just kind of seeing the presentation, hearing what the presenters have to say. And they're very limited to what they can do is basically they can participate in the polls. They can ask any questions. They can do a comment video through chat and question mark, but we do not have to, we don't need to focus about those background noises, muting, unmuting, sharing screen, nothing of that. If they just log in and they just present it, which is a really good feature because as you guys can see, it's very organized, it's very clean, especially doesn't interfere with anything. So when it comes to selecting who the panelists are, I think it's also very important to be selective, and we don't want to have a lot of panelists either, because then we can have the background noise and everything if they're not cautious about it, because they're the ones that we can hear. They're the ones that can mute themselves. They're the one that could stop in sharing their video, or so the panelists could be distracting if they're not cautious of,
So two things, Jennifer, as the host, are you able to mute and unmute panelists if that happens?
I am, and I'm also, if, for example, if there comes a time where I feel like a panelist is being way too noisy and I can put them into attendee mode. That way, automatically their video's off, they're muted, and if they ever want to get access back, you just raise their hand or send me a private chat by saying, I can't see, I need to comment or whatever, and then bring them back to panelist mode. So definitely, you can actually see that feature. Andrea, could you put, Jess, I'll put you an example. Can you on participants where it says Jess, there's a part where it says more, click on the one that says change role to attendee. And that way, Jess is then assigned into attendee. It's a second or two, but then you'll see her there. See, and so her video's out, she's muted automatically. You'll have to be able to give her that access. And then you could go ahead again and put more and then promote to panelists.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We lost Jess.
So as a, here, I'll go ahead and promote her real quick. Okay, good, she's there. Takes a second for them to add, but they're there.
Got it. So
So, yes.
I want to just be really clear to your question, Kirsten, that the responsibility of Zoom for this particular day one of the OSAP recipient meeting, Jennifer will be setting up like the webinar mode and handling reminders and attendees. But as a team, it's really important that we all know how to work this platform inside and out. So this webinar piece, I'm sorry it wasn't clear like what the roles around the recipient meeting are so far, but the reason we're walking through this is that we kind of all know moving forward how to use this, but also for during the recipient meeting, like what's possible and what's not as we're communicating with speakers and trying to get them. This is going to be a bit, it's going to be a big change for OSAP, and it's going to be a big change for people who are familiar with like the meetings that we just moved them online, but this format's going to be different. So trying to get a handle on the ways it's going to be different and how to prep people for participating in this kind of meeting.
Yeah, and you were actually pretty clear about that. So
Okay.
I don't feel like you were not clear.
Okay.
I think I'm just trying to just make sure that I've just got a handle on like what I need to know right now and what I can kind of ease into as time goes on, you know. That's
Right.
I would suggest this week that everybody try and schedule a webinar and go through all of those steps and start to become familiar with this platform. And then be thinking about with your presenters, if they want to create polls, we're going to need to walk them through the Q&A piece. We have decided that I think it's July 31, we're going to bring our presenters into the webinar and have them probably join as attendees first and then switch them over to panelists so they can get a feel for the platform. But I also want everybody meeting with those speakers one-on-one before July 31st to go over I want their presentations early. I want them to be thinking about what they're doing early. And that's going to be a challenge. A lot of people, no matter how many times we prod or offer orientation, that everybody's super busy, including us, and they tend to wait till the last minute. I don't think that we can afford to do that with moving this meeting online. So we really need to try and keep people on track. Yeah. And I do have an updated list of kind of people's responsibilities, but I want to see if there's anything more, Jennifer, you'd like to cover with the webinar and if there's any questions currently.
That's correct. That's the last part, is just answer any questions that you guys may have. You guys now got a feel of what a panelist, will look like, and attendees as well. So if you guys have any questions or need any help setting up a webinar, just let me know with time, and then I could set up a time to to just join in a webinar that needs to be, but any questions now? You guys good?
I think it's going to take some tinkering around for me.
Definitely. And there's nothing like hands-on. So I suggest that you guys, again, set up a webinar with someone and run it through. It really does make a world of a difference. Mhm.
I
This
think
was
you answered all my questions that I could come up with so far, but
Okay.
yeah, I'll reach out to you later on after I've played around with it myself.
Good. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the live on YouTube. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to test run it. I might send you guys the link to it so that you guys know, hey, is it functioning? What needs to be changed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.